Yeah, those sounds tend to drive you a little goofy, especially when you're off duty. If you're bugged when your boss calls or texts you on the weekends, and Jamie, I don't know how often that happens to you.
It doesn't happen often, but I still do stay in touch with work over the weekend.
Well, we all do here. But in Australia, as of this week, bosses are now violating the law if they try to contact you, work-related matters. And joining us this morning, when you're off duty, I mean, and joining us this morning to talk about this too good to be true law is ABC's Cheri Preston.
Cheri, good morning. It's so good to talk to you. We have known each other for many, many years, but we don't often get to have you on the show with us in the morning.
I know. Sometimes you got to work from home to get to talk to actually your buds on the air.
I know. So bosses are actually violating the law if they text you. Do we know what led to the creation of this law and where this is happening in Australia, right?
It's happening in Australia. It went into effect on Monday, and it's literally called the Right to Disconnect Law. And it was designed because employees were stepping up and saying, we got to have some sort of line between when work is and when home is. It's designed to curb the creep of work emails and calls into personal lives. And it gives workers the confidence that they can say, no, I don't really want these calls on weekends. I don't want to have to do this. It's one of these things that since the pandemic happened, this sort of work creep has been happening in a lot of people's personal lives. And they say that, with some people working from home, some people working, in actual offices, that the lines are blurred now. And they're saying something had to be done. It should be said that in the news business, this doesn't really count because, where things happen 24/7. But there are a lot of companies who say, well, we are also essential. We are not, we're not the news business, but we may be the railroad business, and we have to have somebody on the conductor of the train. We don't have enough people. When something like that happens, you know what they're going to do? They actually have a department that has been set up called the Fair Work Commission. You take into account an employer's role, their personal circumstances, how and why the contact was made, and then this Fair Work Commission will decide who's right, the employer or the employee. If the employer violates it, they can be fined tens of thousands of dollars for doing this.
So just to make sure I have this correct, the employer, it's actually illegal for them to text you, your boss to text you, unless, it's urgent business.
Right. What it is called is it is the Fair Understanding the Right to Disconnect. And what they're saying for certain businesses, for all employers, it's going to start in August of next year. For smaller business, it's going to start in 2025. But no, actually went into place this week. Sorry. But yes, it's not illegal. You're not going to be, called off to jail or something like that. But if it is excessive, an employee steps up and says, hey, I'm filing this under this law, this Right to Disconnect law, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'm not doing it anymore, and the company can be fined. So whether or not they want to be fined, they've got to find out.
Although there might be some employees who would like to see their bosses hauled off to jail in those circumstances.
Well, I'm not getting involved in that. Get out of that one.
ABC's Cheri Preston joins us this morning on Arizona's Morning News. Okay, those who are listening to us here in Phoenix are asking the question, is there any talk of such a law being proposed in the U.S.?
You jest. Surely you jest. No.
I try.
I know. There is a very similar law that passed in France, and it passed in 2017 before the pandemic. So if they don't even have the pandemic, work creep happening. But a pest control company in France was fined $60,000 for forcing an employee to keep his cell phone on all the time, even for work calls. They're saying, termites not necessarily the end of the world call that you need to be in on weekends.
You're saying
they got fined for doing it.
Yeah, you're saying the employee was bugged by getting those calls.
Okay, that was a good one. And
tip your waitress. I'll be here all week.
Right into it.
Chew on that for a while. All right, thank you very much, ABC's Cheri Preston joining us this morning. I kind of like it, but in our business, it really wouldn't matter, right?
I guess not.
Thanks for watching Arizona's Morning News. Click to watch more from KTAR News and hit the button in the middle to subscribe.